Hello and welcome to this presentation about query designs as a design tool. So our learning intention, actually before I talk about our learning intention, I should say that the intended audience for this video is VCE Computing students, probably in units 1 and 2, although it might be of interest to students in software development 3 and 4. So our learning intention is that students can identify the purpose of using query designs as a design tool and 3 common approaches. So why do we use design tools? Well, we use design tools to get our ducks in a row, to get quite a lot of our pre-thinking done before we start coding. So in actual fact, our solution should be conceptually built before we start writing any code. So we should have an idea of what it looks like and how various bits of it interact with each other, and even down to how the queries work. Now, a pretty straightforward query is, by definition, pretty straightforward, but database queries are actually quite complicated. One of the things that I find complicated is what's called, and I'm struggling to remember this, a parameterized query, which is much safer than just a standard query. But I find them tricky to write and a little bit fiddly. So and there is in fact a job called a database analyst that you can actually see up here. And why don't we just take that detour now actually? I've got it later in the presentation. But you've got all sorts of jobs here. The AI has come back and talked about who some employers are and what sort of jobs they're likely to be called. But as you can see, 37 analyst jobs. Now they're not all data analyst jobs. Data analyst jobs in Victoria, data analyst jobs in Geelong. So what jobs pay $150,000 a year? I don't know for sure that they pay that much, but it says here 191 data analyst jobs in Melbourne, 95,000 to 128,000. So it's quite specialised work. There's quite a lot of art and science to writing a good database query. So what is database design? Well, it's a visual and structured approach to create, modify and represent database queries, because you're often actually dipping into multiple tables and you're joining up values in common, and it can be really quite complicated. So this is a way of simplifying it before you're actually testing it in your code environment. So you've got your visual query builders, which is what's represented here. You've got your fields down the side, you've got your tables there, you've got a view of what it's going to look like, and you can actually connect these things with lines between them. So it's a way of making it more accessible to people. That's all the stuff that I just said. And you drag fields and set conditions and join tables and so forth. And this is the sort of stuff where it gets quite complicated when you're building queries. The next approach is the SQL view, where again you've got the same sorts of information. You've got tables over here and you're just spelling out your query nice and simply. You've got your columns down here that you can probably drag up there to use, and filters and so forth, and you can jump between these various views. And this last one I actually was having trouble finding some visual examples of, and this is called Query by Example, and it's a grid-based interface where users fill in examples of what they're looking for. Apparently it's found in tools such as Microsoft Access and LibreOffice Base. I'm not really familiar with either of those in any detail. And the grid typically displays the field names from the selected table, tables, and sort order options and criteria. And output selection checkboxes. So earlier we went on that field trip. We had a look at the jobs. It is actually quite a big, it's quite a substantial field if you want to get involved in it. And I thought while we're here, let's have a look at the tools that we have available. And this is in the My PHP admin. This is the back end of 42 Penguins. So I can say, well, I want a select statement, or I want an insert statement, or I want an update statement, or a delete. These are good because it saves you from those typos and it kind of gives you some scaffolding on it. So let's say that I want to select here. So select star, which is everything from links, which is the name of this, where, and it just says 1, and over here I have the names of the fields. So let's say where ID, so it inserts ID for me, and then I write the rest of the query. ID equals 4, all right? And then it's actually not double equals, which is, I'm going to run the query actually. There we go. And it gives me an error. So this is a much safer environment for me to test my queries than it is to be doing it in my code where there's all these other things that might go wrong. So I can do my design in a much safer, more structured environment. So that's the end of the presentation, and I hope it gives you an idea of what we talk about when we talk about query design as a design tool.